Welcome to English Stories for Listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you genuinely want to be fluent in English.
My name is Anna. I am a young girl who once feared speaking English. I remember standing in front of my class, my voice shaking, my heart pounding, as I tried to say a simple sentence in English. The words felt heavy on my tongue, and I could see my classmates watching, waiting. I wanted to run away. But I didn't. I stayed and I spoke, even though my pronunciation was not perfect. That day I made a promise to myself. I would learn English not just to speak it, but to speak it well. I wanted to sound confident, like the people I saw on TV. I wanted to pronounce every word correctly, so no one would ever laugh at me again. One day I found a book in the library. It was about a girl who, like me, struggled with learning English. Her name was Lily. She came from a small village where no one spoke English. But Lily had a dream. She wanted to travel the world and meet people from different countries. She knew that to do this, she had to learn English. Lily's journey was not easy. She cried many nights, feeling hopeless. But one night, as she sat by her window, looking at the stars, she realized something. "I don't need to be perfect," she whispered. "I just need to start." And so she did. Lily began by listening. She listened to English songs, even though she didn't understand the words at first. She watched English movies, trying to mimic the way the actors spoke. Slowly, she began to recognize words and sounds. She practiced every day, sometimes in front of the mirror, sometimes with her friends. I felt a connection with Lily. Her story gave me hope. I decided to follow her steps. I started with listening, just like Lily. I listened to English songs. At first it was hard. The words seemed to blend together, but I didn't give up. I listened again and again, and soon I could pick out individual words. My first victory was understanding the word love in a song. It made me smile. Every day I learned a new word. I would repeat it to myself, trying to get the pronunciation just right. Sometimes I would ask my English teacher for help. She was kind and patient, and she would say the words slowly so I could hear each sound. I would close my eyes and listen carefully, then try to say it exactly the same way. One day I met a girl named Emily. She was new to our school and came from another country. She didn't speak our language, and I could see she was scared. I remembered how I felt when I couldn't speak English well, and I wanted to help her. I approached her and said, "Hello." Emily looked at me with wide eyes. I could see she didn't understand, so I repeated it, slowly, and pointed to myself, then to her. "Hello, I'm Anna. What's your name?" She smiled shyly and replied, "Emily." We became friends. Emily helped me with my English, and I helped her with our language. We practiced together every day. I taught her words, and she taught me how to pronounce them correctly. We laughed a lot, especially when we made mistakes, but we never gave up. One day, Emily said something that made me think. Anna, don't be afraid to make mistakes. They are our teachers. Every time you make a mistake, you learn something new. Her words stayed with me. I realized that I was so afraid of making mistakes that I was holding myself back. From that day on, I embraced my mistakes. Every time I said a word wrong, I would laugh and try again. I knew that each mistake was bringing me closer to my goal. My English teacher noticed the change in me. She told me that I was improving, and that made me feel proud. She said, Anna, you have a gift. You don't just learn English, you live it. You feel the words in your heart, and that's why you will succeed. I smiled, but deep inside, I knew I still had a long way to go. There were still words I couldn't pronounce correctly, and sometimes I would get frustrated. But I remembered Lily and Emily. I remembered that it was okay to take small steps. It was okay to make mistakes. The important thing was to keep going. One day, my teacher gave us an assignment. We had to give a speech in English. I was scared, but I also felt ready. I had been practicing my pronunciation every day. I stood in front of the class, just like I had on that first day. But this time I wasn't afraid. I took a deep breath and began to speak. At first my voice was shaky, but as I continued, I felt more confident. I could see my classmates listening, and I knew I was doing well. When I finished, there was silence. Then everyone started clapping. I felt tears in my eyes, but they were happy tears. After the class, my teacher came up to me and said, Anna, you did it. Your pronunciation was beautiful. I am so proud of you. I realized then that learning English was not just about speaking the words correctly. It was about expressing myself, sharing my thoughts and feelings with others. English had become a part of me, and I knew it would help me in many ways in the future. I continued to practice every day. I read books, watched movies, and spoke with Emily. I noticed that my pronunciation was getting better, and I felt more confident. I even started helping other students who were struggling with English. One day I was walking home when I saw a little girl crying. She was sitting on the sidewalk, hugging her knees. I walked over to her and asked, "Are you okay?" She looked up at me with tear-filled eyes and shook her head. "I can't speak English," she whispered. "The kids at school laugh at me." I felt a pang in my heart. I knew exactly how she felt. I sat down beside her and said, "I understand. But you know what? You can learn. I'll help you." She looked at me with hope in her eyes. I smiled and said, "Let's start with something simple. Can you say hello?" She nodded and tried to say the word, but her pronunciation was not perfect. I didn't laugh. I just smiled and said, "That's great. Now, let's try again." We practiced together for a while, and I could see her confidence growing. She was starting to believe in herself, just like I had learned to believe in myself. From that day on, I helped her every day. We practiced words and sentences, and I could see her improving. It made me happy to see her smile and to know that I was making a difference in her life. English had not only helped me to express myself, but also to help others. I realized that language is not just about words. It's about connecting with people, understanding their feelings, and being there for them. As I continued to learn, I discovered more ways to improve my pronunciation. I started to pay attention to the way native speakers moved their mouths when they spoke. I would stand in front of the mirror and try to copy them. It was like a game, and I enjoyed it. I also learned that reading out loud was very helpful. I would choose a book one liked and read it out loud every day. It helped me to hear the words and to get used to saying them. I found that the more I practiced, the more natural it became. There were days when I felt discouraged, especially when I encountered difficult words. But I remembered Emily's words, "Don't be afraid to make mistakes." I would remind myself that every mistake was a step toward improvement. One day I decided to challenge myself. I entered a school competition where we had to recite a poem in English. I chose a poem that was full of difficult words, but I was determined to do it. I practiced every day, focusing on my pronunciation. The day of the competition arrived, and I was nervous. But I also felt ready. I stood on the stage, looked at the audience, and began to recite the poem. I took my time, pronouncing each word carefully. As I finished, there was a moment of silence, and then the applause started. I won the competition that day, but more importantly, I won my battle with pronunciation. I had faced my fears and come out stronger. English had become more than just a subject in school, it had become a part of my life. As time went on, I continued to improve. I took every opportunity to speak English, whether it was in class, with friends, or even with strangers. I knew that practice was the key to mastering pronunciation. One day, my teacher asked me to help a new student from another country. His name was Carlos, and he didn't speak English well. I remembered how Emily had helped me, and I wanted to do the same for him. Carlos was shy at first, but I encouraged him. We started with simple words, just like I had with Emily. I could see that he was trying hard, and I admired his determination. We practiced every day, and soon his pronunciation started to improve. Helping Carlos reminded me of how far I had come. I realized that learning English was not just about improving myself, it was also about helping others on their journey. One evening, as I was walking home, I thought about everything I had learned. I remembered the fears I had faced, the mistakes I had made, and the victories I had achieved. I felt proud of my progress and grateful for the support I had received from my friends and teachers. Learning English had been a beautiful journey, full of challenges and rewards. It had helped me to connect with others, to express myself, and to grow as a person. I knew that the journey was not over, but I was excited for the future. I looked up at the sky and whispered, "Thank you for helping me find my voice." As I walked home that evening, I thought about all the tips and tricks I had picked up along the way. I wanted to share them with others who were on the same journey I once was. So, let me tell you some of the ways that helped me improve my pronunciation and learn English. 1. Listen carefully. Listening is the first step. Just like I listened to English songs and watched movies, you can do the same. Pay attention to how words are pronounced. I remember listening to a song and hearing the word beautiful over and over. At first, it sounded like a jumble of sounds, but with time, I began to recognize each part of the word. 2. Mimic native speakers. Try to mimic how native speakers talk. When I practiced with Emily, I would listen to her speak and try to copy her pronunciation. It helped me sound more natural. I would repeat phrases after her, paying close attention to the rhythm and intonation. 3. Practice with tongue twisters. Tongue twisters were a fun way to practice. I remember laughing as I tried to say, "She sells seashells by the seashore quickly." It helped me with tricky sounds and made practicing pronunciation enjoyable. 4. Read aloud. Reading aloud is a great way to practice. I chose books with interesting stories and read them out loud every day. It helped me to hear how words should sound and to practice pronouncing them correctly. I would mark the difficult words and focus on them. 5. Use a dictionary. Whenever I encountered a new word, I would use a dictionary with audio pronunciation. It was like having a guide that showed me how to say the word correctly. I would listen to the pronunciation and then repeat it until I got it right. 6. Record yourself. Recording yourself speaking was a powerful tool. I would listen to the recordings and compare them with native speakers. It helped me hear mistakes I might not notice otherwise. I remember recording myself reading a poem and realizing I needed to work on my intonation. 7. Practice with a partner. Practicing with a friend or a language partner made learning enjoyable. I practiced English with Emily and Carlos, and it was fun to learn together. We would correct each other and celebrate our progress. Find someone to practice with and support each other. 8. Learn phonetics. Understanding phonetics helped me with pronunciation. I learned about different sounds and how to produce them. It was like learning a new alphabet. I would practice the sounds that were difficult for me until I could say them confidently. 9. Be patient and persistent. Learning English takes time, and it's important to be patient. There were times when I felt frustrated, but I kept going. I remembered Emily's advice, don't be afraid to make mistakes. Every mistake was a step toward improvement. 10. Speak every day. I made it a habit to speak English every day. Whether it was talking to my friends, answering questions in class, or even thinking in English, it helped me become more comfortable with the language. The more I spoke, the better my pronunciation became. 11. Watch yourself in the mirror. Watching myself speak in the mirror helped me with pronunciation. I would see how my mouth moved and try to adjust it to match the way native speakers spoke. It was like having a personal coach. 12. Use language learning apps. I discovered that language learning apps were useful tools. They had exercises for pronunciation and speaking practice. I used them regularly and found that they helped me track my progress and improve my skills. 13. Join a language group. Joining a language group or club provided a supportive environment. I met other learners who shared my goals. We practiced together, shared tips, and encouraged each other. It was motivating to be part of a community. 14. Focus on stress and intonation. Understanding stress and intonation in sentences was important. I learned that the way I stressed certain words and the rise and fall of my voice affected how I was understood. Practicing with sentences and listening to native speakers helped me master this. 15. Celebrate your progress. Every small achievement was worth celebrating. I kept track of my progress and rewarded myself for reaching milestones. It made learning English more enjoyable and kept me motivated. As I shared these tips with Carlos, I saw a spark of hope in his eyes. He started to practice more, using the tips I had shared. His pronunciation improved, and he began to feel more confident. It reminded me of my own journey and how far I had come. Learning English and improving pronunciation is a continuous journey. It's like climbing a mountain. There are challenges, but the view from the top is worth it. English opens doors to new opportunities and helps us connect with people from around the world. I continued to practice, knowing that each day brought new lessons. I embraced every mistake as a chance to learn and grow. I took joy in helping others, knowing that by sharing what I had learned, I was making a difference. One day, as I walked to school, I saw a group of students gathered around Carlos. He was speaking confidently, and everyone was listening. I smiled, knowing that he was on his way to achieving his dreams, just like I was. The journey of learning English and improving pronunciation is not just about speaking correctly. It's about finding your voice, connecting with others, and expressing yourself with confidence. It's about overcoming fears and celebrating victories, both big and small. As I looked up at the sky, I whispered, "Thank you for helping me find my voice and for guiding me on this beautiful journey."